Hello, welcome back to the home ground. It's part two of the fascinating story, which is Paul McNamee, one of Australia's most unique sporting executives, former dual Davis Cup winner. Max, part one was great. I'm looking forward to part two.
It was. I mean, I think we would struggle to find a more experienced and diverse sports administrator in the country than Paul McNamee. So very happy to have him for a second part. And Paul, thanks for being us for an extended episode. One of the things we wanted to talk about, which you probably don't talk about enough, is the stint you had in AFL. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Oh, well, I had a bit of AFL pedigree, I guess, because my uncle Dick Reynolds won 3 Brownlow medals at Essendon, so I had a bit of background of Aussie rules. Uncle Dick, he's passed away, but my mum, his sister passed away last year at 102, which is a very good innings, by the way. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, look, I got the opportunity to be CEO of Melbourne Football Club. After I left golf, and then obviously I wanted to play finals like anyone, you would as an executive. But, the club was going through a difficult period. There was a lot of room in the salary cap. So, look, I had the idea to recruit someone that I'd heard was a little bit disgruntled where he was in Brisbane, which was Jonathan Brown. So we'd heard he maybe was struggling there a little bit and maybe wanted to come back to Victoria. He'd captained Victoria in the State of the Origin, run on the MCG. So Chris Conley was there at Melbourne at the time, was the head of football. Dean Bailey was the coach. Jim Steins came in as chairman. Chris said to me, what did you say to Jonathan Brown's manager? I said, well, I told him to tell Jonathan that he will bring greatness back to a once great club. Mm. So that sounds pretty good. But the club was more interested in recruiting young guys and going that way. So that particular year when I was there, and we had the number 1 draft pick, and I wanted Nick Natanui. Chris wanted Jack Watts. They went for Jack Watts. That's the way it goes. Look, Nick may have ended up going back to Perth anyway at some point, but what a marketing tool you've got there with Nick Natanui. I just thought that I was hoping we'd go that way. And Jonathan Brown, I was very, very, very well advanced in discussions with his manager about him. We had the salary cap room. We knew he was interested in coming back to Melbourne, and he was a Warrnambool kid and the whole thing. So the first list management meeting went pretty well, and Dean Bailey, who was the late Dean Bailey, unfortunately, he was coach. He said, I said, what do you think about Jonathan Brown? He goes, Jonathan Brown, because Dean spoke more slowly than I do. He probably thinks things through better than I do, whatever. Jonathan Brown, ticks the power forward box, ticks the goal kicking box, ticks the leadership box, probably ticks the captaincy block. Probably ticks the captaincy box. Probably the best player. In fact, he is the best player in the competition. Yeah, he ticks a few boxes, doesn't he? So I thought we were looking really good. So I kept advancing the discussions. We would have done a 5-year deal with him. The other clubs were only offering him 4. I said, no, he played for 5 more. Mm. And he'd won 3 premierships. Does he really, it's not like he has to go somewhere where they're looking at a premiership right away, but to bring greatness back to a once great club. So anyway, that's going well. Next list management meeting, they're talking about the young guys, the whole thing. That I said, no discussion of Jonathan Brown. Look, what about Jonathan Brown? The guys go, look, we think we've got to go young. We've got to go young. And sorry, Paul, but we're not going to do it. Wow. So I had to tell his manager, we're not going to do the deal. Didn't do it. And I got sacked pretty soon after that because I was swimming the wrong direction. They were going in a different direction as a club, and because I wanted to play finals the next year. They were more concerned with the long term with the younger guys. That's their choice. I think we would have done pretty well the next year with Natanui and Jonathan Brown. But anyway, shortly after I was sacked, because it was within a week after that, basically. I'd only been there 4 months, but we had the 100-year anniversary in Melbourne, which was fantastic, the function. Jonathan Brown, something happened in Brisbane. Liam Matthews was the coach, happened to have to leave, and Michael Voss came in, and Jonathan Brown decided to stay in Brisbane. You can read between the lines. And Jonathan Brown was asked about it on the Footy Show. Did Paul McNamee speak to you about going to Melbourne? And, and he said, no, he's never spoken to me, which was true. I can't speak directly to Jonathan Brown, with his situation. So I spoke to his mate. So it's technically true what he said, but it did hang me out to dry a little bit, to be honest, because it made it look like I wasn't as deep in that discussion as what I was. But that's life, and I'm not an AFL guy. I moved on to other things quickly, but I haven't been to a game since.
Did you?
And that's nearly 20 years ago.
Do you feel like you were an outsider in a sport you wanted to contribute to, and as a result,
absolutely,
your voice was not heard?
Absolutely, especially in Melbourne. I mean, they're nice guys. Gary Lyon and all those guys. Don't get me wrong, they're nice guys, but they do like to kind of run the show, And they're good guys, and they love this, and it's their life. I mean, it is their life. It was never going to be my life, but I did, My dream there was that, a good stat in football is an inside 50. I wanted to see a premiership inside 50 years, which would have been 2014 because their last one was 64. So that was what my vision was, But and Paul Gardner was the chairman who gave me the job. So I got on better with Paul than I ended up. Unfortunately, late Jim Stein's not here anymore, and was incredible what he did for the club and as a person. But we never really connected with the vision, if I'm being really honest.
Yeah.
That's what happened there. So I sort of fell out of Aussie rules since then. Essendon was obviously the team I grew up with, but it wasn't to be honest, a great experience. The way things worked there, but they ended up getting their premiership. Unfortunately, not at the MCG, but good luck to them. So I had my stint, but I wasn't the right fit, to be honest.
Yep.
So I got more interested in football, which I'd always been interested in, the round ball.
Yeah, that's...
Oh, and that's a great segue from one football to the other. So you also had a stint at Melbourne Victory.
Only as a supporter. Yeah. Only as a supporter. I was one of the first members of Melbourne Victory because and I was for at least 10 or 11 years. I was always had good seats and the whole thing. I loved the round ball game, and I'm Liverpool. My son also played football and played from Malvern to Box Hill to Oakley to Richmond to Kingston. He helped them come up to NPL. So my son was involved in football as a player. So I loved the game. So you follow football as a parent whatever your kid chooses, right? I mean, because people will say, well, should push your kid into tennis or this or that. And parents often say to me, what sport should your children pick, or which one should they pick? I said, you know what? The kid doesn't pick. The sport picks them, not the other way around. So let your kids play as many sports as possible for your listeners. One was going to grab them, and it won't be the other way around necessarily. The sport picks you. And so soccer or football picked my son. So I was never going. I took him to Hopman's Academy in Florida, and they were saying to him, "Why are you not training like your father? He was a very handy player. He could play, but why is he not dedicated? You're not dedicated. Your father used to be 8-10 hours." You go, he rolled the eye. But it's the worst thing you can say to a kid is try and say something about their parent, right? So next time we went there, he went to the football academy at IMG down in Sarasota. So he wasn't going to a tennis academy. Yeah. So I always loved the game. We followed Liverpool together. We did a trip to England. He played a bit over there against junior teams. It was a lot of fun. And the experience I had in football then was to help South Melbourne, get an A-League licence when the A-League came along, because I supported that and the whole thing, even though it was a bit of a closed shop. So I thought South Melbourne kind of deserves it. So I was part of the Southern Cross bid with Nick Galatis and a bunch of other guys, who's the chairman of Association of Australian Football Clubs, who believe in a second division, home and away. So I was in that Southern Cross bid, and I recruited, I thought, well, at least with my Irish background, I'm not Greek background, it sort of widens the net a little bit, because they had this thing about they didn't really want ethnic football clubs, even though you go to Europe, there's a lot of ethnic football clubs and religious-based football clubs, Celtic and Rangers for example, in Scotland, etc., etc. But so I recruited Les Murray to also de-Greek it a little bit, if I'm allowed to say that, and because he's got Hungarian background, and the late Les Murray, what a person, and what an amazing guy, and I was with Les when he got his order for Australia, and the day Australia played Brazil in Munich, we went to the game, and it was amazing. So Les became part of our team. They shut us down within 2 weeks of myself and then Les joining the team. No, they didn't want South Melbourne going near the A-League. I couldn't believe it. I'd never experienced that, what I felt was prejudice.
And
Right from the top. And by the way, I had been offered to be CEO of FA.
Yeah.
I mean, I knocked it back, and then Ben Buckley got the job. I actually knocked that job back because I didn't want to spoil the love I had of the game, sharing with my son. I thought this is going to ruin our father-son relationship if I'm CEO of the FA. I turned it down, but I was very upset then when the Southern Cross thing happened, because that's after I turned down CEO and basically not welcome. So we badly need a second division that's home and away with the potential of linking to the A-League. We badly need it.
Okay, and that's happened at the moment in a form, in a condensed form,
Sure.
but it's a start, Paul. So
It's a start.
We've got 2 huge clubs in the final.
Marconi, South Melbourne, what a final. I mean, that was amazing to have those 2 clubs. They both won the NSL 4 times.
Yeah.
They're iconic clubs. One's Italian, one's Greek, background. But what I mean, you see, football is divided because so many people, and they've started to come back to the championship. I mean, they got 4,000 people to South Melbourne and Heidelberg.
Yeah.
They normally, in home and away, they're getting 1,000 in NPL. So so many people left the sport once they realise if you've got that ethnic background, you're not welcome in the top tier. And I gave up my membership in Melbourne Victory because I was disgusted that this would happen in a sport. And what I knew was a divided house can never grow, and football has to reunite before it can grow. They keep talking about APL, talking about fans from other sports and et cetera, et cetera. No. First, the game has to reunite, and the only way it can do that, there is no other way, is to have a fully fledged national second division with the potential to join the A-League.
And do you think this championship has shown the FA and the powers to be that can expand and be a genuine part of the
It has. But the Congress, the way the sport is politically set up, AAFC with Nicolaus don't even have a vote on Congress. Congress is set up in such a way it's almost impossible for them to happen because it's controlled by forces that are not. They're not really wanting it to happen because they like the status quo. And people have paid, let's say $15 million for licenses to get an A-League license. Why would you want to potentially be relegated? Well, guess what? The licenses end in 2034. You didn't have it for life for your license. You had a good, 15, 20 years, 10 years run, whatever. It wasn't for life. That's the moment when it can all change. So what I say is there needs to be a clock ticking between now and 2034. The A-League could welcome teams that are promoted without having relegation till 2034. But that's how you do it. But unless there's a commitment to doing that, the sport is divided, and it will never fulfill its potential. It has such massive potential in this country, as it is in every other country. I mean, I live half the year in Europe. I mean, it's clearly the best sport in all those countries. They all have second divisions. They all link to the top tier. Why are we following the American model again, as we do in other things? Why are we following it again and not having the link? And I understand commercially, if you pay $50 million, you don't want to be relegated. But if Melbourne Victory, who have finished bottom before and are probably almost bottom right now, if they had the threat of being relegated, you don't think with their power they wouldn't get players and stuff? Yeah. I mean, Liverpool doesn't get relegated. Man U doesn't get relegated. I mean, iconic clubs do not get relegated, right? So there's no threat to those clubs. So the championship was a start, but only a start. But none of the clubs are really happy about it. And I hope AAFC and Nicolaus can find a way with those foundation clubs and the other clubs that are going ahead to be able to be strong enough to take it on with FA about this and not worry about the noise that APL and all the others are going to make. Actually take the project on because the clubs do want a home and away season. They don't want. That's what they want.
Yeah.
So I mean, A-League's had a lot of challenges in the last few years. We've talked a lot about West United and what's happened with them on the podcast.
And McCarthy and the other things. Yeah.
And it's interesting hearing your perspective that you think certainly the second division's a really core part of why it doesn't work. But you've run some very significant tournaments and organisations and so forth. Are there any other missing elements you think from A-League that are preventing it from playing the role it should in Australia?
Well, we talked about in the last podcast I did with you guys the fact that their stadiums are too big and that doesn't create atmosphere, and you can't translate to TV ratings if you don't have atmosphere in the stadium, because the atmosphere jumps across from the people. You need that atmosphere in the stadium, and then it will rate. So, yeah, they've got stadium issues, no doubt about it. But it comes down to the fact that it's a divided sport. You can't grow if you divide. I run into so many people that used to follow NSL, used to follow clubs in the NSL, and they're not interested. And they would be back in 1 second. I mean, if at Box Hill or wherever, Rich, you had the dream of one day playing nationally. I mean, imagine for the city of Heidelberg being in the national highest competition. That can't happen in AFL or other sports. I mean, imagine the support they'd get from the Shire of Heidelberg if they were playing nationally in the top division. You see, it has to be united, and everybody is welcome. Everyone who loves the sport has got to feel welcome, and I don't think A-League has done that, and they let so many people. There are many people from Marconi and South Melbourne who played in the final of the Australian Championship who have never been to an A-League game. They've never been. They would be back in 1 second if there's that opportunity to link. And to South Melbourne's credit, they're not fighting to get in the back door to the A-League and get a licence. They are committed to earning it through winning a second division. All credit to them.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at your sports executive career, and maybe parts of your playing career as well, what are your fondest memories, your most challenging moments, the most vibrant reflections that you have?
Well, I think the night final, it's hard to beat at the Australian Open because, we just until the Matildas match was just the highest rating TV event ever. And I felt that was amazing to be part of that. And, I mean, as a player, winning Wimbledon with Macca and winning the Davis Cup, obviously. But I think the success of the Australian Open, the success of Hopman Cup, the disappointment that it ended up leaving Perth, I guess, and had a big tournament in Bulgaria, in Sofia, where I spent a lot of time. My wife's Bulgarian, where Grigor Dimitrov won the tournament, and it was just hard to describe what that feeling was. So, all of those, it's hard to quantify, but the key is, again, creating atmosphere. If you're running a tournament, and I've run a lot of them, you need to remember that no success really happens without atmosphere. The better the atmosphere, the luckier you get. So I have this other expression I use is one eye on the ball and one eye on the summit. It's good for a tennis ball because you need one eye on the tennis ball to hit it well, but you need to know where you're going. You've got to live in both places. And this is business or anything else. You can't just think about the destination because you may never get there, and the journey is important. And you can't just focus on the present only because you can be focusing totally on the present and not knowing where you're going. You really have to live in both places, I think, if you want to be successful. That's what I feel.
And aspirations for the future, you've touched on where you want Australian football to go, a purely connected first and second division, and I think every football fan wants that.
Well, let's get a home and away second division first. We've only got the championship with Champions League model. That's not what the clubs want. That's not what the sport wants or needs. It's being imposed on these foundation clubs, and they're good clubs. They're in the NSL. These foundation clubs is with Wollongong and Sydney United and Sydney Olympic and these and Avondale and Preston. What a culture they're creating! I mean, I know there are a few flares and issues, but go to Europe and have a look. So et cetera. But first, it has to be home and away. Then the connection. It can't really happen, in my opinion, until 20. Certainly not promotion relegation until 2034. But we'll see.
Okay.
One of the things you talked about, when we're talking about tennis, was the fact that AO became the sort of Grand Slam of Asia Pacific.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, could the A-League over time expand to be the premier soccer league, football league for Asia Pacific in some way?
Well, we're linked to Asia Pacific because we qualify for the Olympics and World Cup through Asia. So that was a great move that Football Australia did at the time. And there's no look. Why wouldn't you be connected to Asia Pacific? There's 3 billion people. It's half of the world's population. It's the biggest growth engine commercially in the world. I mean, it's so saturated in Europe, the US. I mean, that is the future, especially for Australia. We're on the same time frame. We have such a natural advantage in Australia compared to the other international sporting events because, I mean, you know, who got up, you know, a couple of weeks ago to watch 3 a.m. to watch a Qatar F1 Grand Prix, which Oscar Piastri won from Carlton. Good on him. I love Oscar and what he's doing in F1, but it's 3 a.m. Now, we have this natural advantage in connection with Asia Pacific, with time zone. Europe doesn't have it, the US doesn't have it. We've got to exploit that. I mean, why is Premier League big in Asia but not Champions League? You know, because Champions League comes in the wrong time. Premier League, the early game comes in at 9 o'clock at night. I mean, Premier League is huge in Asia, bigger than Champions League, because so it's all about the time zone. We have to exploit our natural advantages in Australia, and we are the natural leader in sport in Asia Pacific. You look at the Olympics, the gold medal, our history in sport, it's our cultural. We have this opportunity. So I don't believe it's correct, though, for the A-League to suddenly be an Asia Pacific league. I'm not a massive fan of the Oceania Football League, the South's playing it, but we'll see how it goes. No, we need to carry our weight as a united sport in Australia and be the best we can be in Australia and keep qualifying for the Olympics and the World Cup and everything else through Asia Pacific. But we need a viable league. I mean, the J League's not going to want to play matches elsewhere. Same with Korea, China, the whole thing. I mean, those leagues are pretty strong in those countries. So no, we just got to be the best we can be. And in this particular sport, it's not a Grand Slam. It's not global. We've got to be the best we can be in Australia. We've qualified for the World Cup 5 times in a row now, which has been amazing. So no, I just think the A League is massively underperforming. But they are, I think, like an apple falls off a tree. It's going to be the other way around. In the end, the A-League is going to be begging to join the second division, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And the second division, all it's got to be is not the second division, because in winter, is it second or first division? It's actually first division in winter, and A-League's first division in summer. They've got to merge.
6 times in a row.
Excuse me.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, I was in a bar in Shanghai when John Aloisi kicked the goal. That was just incredible.
Yeah.
I can't describe it. Yeah.
Hey,
and I was in Kaiserslautern when we beat Japan.
Yeah,
so.
It was a great moment to be. Hey, Macca, it's been great to have you on the home ground. Look forward to doing commentary with you at Kooyong, by the way.
Yeah, pretty good. And Nick Kyrgios is playing.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we hope so anyway. And the great field Peter Johnson's put together. And I love the SBS. This is the other thing. We're talking about football. Who is covering the World Cup in football? Who covered the NSL? Where's the traditional home of football?
Well.
So, and did the Australian Championship. Second division second tier should be on SBS. That's my opinion, but we'll see.
Well, there you go. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it? 2 episodes with the Macca.
Thanks for talking to me.
Certainly has been amazing. Thank you, Paul.
You guys have been great. Great to chat to.
Good on you, Paul. We'll see you soon on the home ground.